Hey Alex. I'm just posting on the other sites real quick. I wonder if it still has that issue with the Becky picture. That's weird. I wonder why it keeps bugging out on that. Like the picture that I normally use to say that I'm streaming that has Becky on it, for some reason won't upload on DeviantArt, but it'll upload on every other site. It's a very weird scenario with that picture. I can only guess Becky's just done with that site, so she's like, fuck it. That's the only logic I have. Yeah, it's just very weird. And I'm using like the same picture for the other websites, and they work fine. But for DeviantArt specifically, that picture will not upload. And Becky's like, yeah, I have taste, thank you. She's like, I'm sorry, I have standards. One more site, and then we can start working on something. Okay. Oh yeah, of course. Like, I like DeviantArt. It's just weird that Becky doesn't want to get uploaded on there. I'm just like, I don't know what's happening. Cause like, it's just a picture. It's like nothing special about it, so I don't know why it's not working. I'll have to try to experiment with it, like make a copy of it and see if the copy works. Alright, so let's grab a character that I want to update. Or turn into my style so that way I can use it later in the comments. Oh, I know who to grab. Because this character was gonna appear in Creamfield, but I decided to not use her. Yeah. Because I didn't really... I mean... Kiwi was already using cards that technically didn't fit the theme of her deck, but... it later on was getting to the point where she was using the archetype, so I didn't want to add in more cards that would just take away from it. Get rid of that. So yeah, let's use this character. This is an adoptable that I had got at some point. So she'll be fun to do. Give her 2 different heads to show off her with and without the bag. I was thinking of making the skull a bit flaming, like blue flame. So let's do her bag head first. Well, no. I can do the skull first and then the bag. bag would be easy to put over it. I just have to turn on and off the fire if I'm gonna add that. Hello, welcome. Yeah, I'm glad you like it. Yeah, that page took a while because there's so many characters, and I was like, I am not coloring all of you. I was like, I ain't doing it. So I just, I had made done panels with them being in black and white before, so it wasn't like it was out of the blue. But like, I was just like, no, I don't wanna. Maybe if it was like a more serious comic, then I probably would have. But yeah, like, I know I've said this before, but yes, it is getting close to ending. It's just I have to explain every little thing that happens because it's a card game story. And if there's some parts I can skip over, I will, but it's kind of hard to do with a card game story. Because you gotta explain how certain things happen. You can't just, oh, this card did damage to you, let's not explain it. I am drawing this character in my style because it's an adoptable I had gotten, and so I'm just, you know, giving it the look that I would like it to have when I use it in comics. Whether it be as a card or as having her own story. So, an undead cat reaper. But yeah, it's getting close to ending, and then I'll toss in the weight gain thing. And I can make that actually part of the story. Like, that way it's not just like a random occurrence. I hope you all enjoyed the little Becky video. I've been wanting to do that. Coincidentally, it just happened to line up with April Fools because I just happened to have time. And I was like, oh, okay, I can finally do it. That one video that was put up with the Netflix thing was funny. That was posted. I thought that was funny. Let's make like an empty void. I'll prop up some cracks in the skull. She's probably been dead for a while. Too malicious. Hello. Honestly, to me, the voice worked well because she still sounded kind of close to Daria. That's what made it more fun for me. I was like, it still kind of sounds like Daria. Just like a more pissed off, angsty version. One person was like, does Becky ever smile? And it's like, well, she is smiling. It's probably because something fucked up happened to you. She's slightly a sadist. Fix this. Oh, is my video thing on? Oh, okay. I was just making sure that my... Because for whatever reason they have like a secondary video show up and it plays back. Like, I guess it's useful, but I don't know. Oh yeah, she pretty much always messes with him, and they have a pretty good relationship. It's like, yeah, she can be a bit negative about how things go. Actually, let's change this. Because a lot of the time, Becky doesn't think that their relationship's gonna last, so she kind of treats it as if it's not going to, and just, you know, expects him to break up with her at some point. Doesn't matter too much because we're not really saying anything. Change this. Okay. Yeah. Like, Becky's comic is, when I get to it, it kind of focuses on how she views her relationships with different people, and how she doesn't know why either she or they bother conversing with each other. Because it's like, oh, well, we already know this was going to go to shit in the first place. I guess we just did it faster, type of thing. And it will definitely focus on her relationship with her mother. And her brief relationship with her stepfather. Like, again, I've had a lot of stories planned out. It's just a matter of freaking getting to. And then after a certain point, I had comics are just going to be in black and white, because only a few of them that I want to do in color, and then I'll move on to the other series. So I just need to go through the characters that I want to have color comics. And maybe every once in a while I'll do another color comic for iHat, but for now I want to get through the main ones. And then Black Circus is pretty much an extension of iHat. Dress would be pretty much up here. So. Yeah, I need to start posting on other sites more. That's probably why. Like, every once in a while I do, but, I don't know. Half the time I'm just not sure if whatever I'm making is entertaining enough. Or if I'm just like, I don't feel like it. Welcome. We can do that part of the sleeves later. Maybe I'll give her a bit of a goofy stance. Like she's not really too worried about her posture. Kind of like well, the stance I'm thinking of is sort of like an Invader Zim sort of stance. Like, not Zim specifically, but just like the way some of them kind of stand with their pelvis forward type of stance. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know if I'm gonna go through with it. I'll get there when I get there. Yeah. Like, a lot of the characters I have planned out, like, I've had them planned out for years at this point. It's just everything takes time to get there, and so it sucks because I know there's a ton of comics and characters that I've kind of either left on the back burner or allude to, but they just haven't had the chance to get any spotlight, so it just sucks that all this takes so much time. And I know I've been kind of slowing down a bit with uploads, so I'm working on speeding up on that. Just the current one with Kiwi is just draining because it's like I have to make the artwork for the cards that are being used as well. So I'll be making the comic and then I gotta stop and make whatever card that doesn't exist yet and put that and get that made. Because if I didn't have it before, I need it. So, and I didn't want to like make some shitty drawing just for the card and then later update it, because it's like, well, if I'm doing it now, I might as well get it done. Especially since all the cards are using the design, the modern designs that I have for them. So it's like, you might as well just make it, even if it's a token. Yeah. And it's like I have time, but I'm also trying to like get other things done all at once. So that's like the challenge, is just juggling different things that I'm doing. But I just need to do what I was doing before and just on certain days work on a very specific thing and then move on from there. Like if I have free time after that, then I can put that into like getting something else done or worked on. Because like I also want to practice Blender, because there's stuff I want to do with that. So I'll get there. It's just gonna boil down to time management, which I know I can do. It's like, it's not difficult for me to manage my time, it's just every once in a while I'll fall out of it. Either something will come up or something will just throw off the groove, and then I gotta realign it all over again. Let's get this looking good first, and then we'll do that. She's got cat paws, so... So yeah, that's usually just been the case with me. It's just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then something comes up and it completely throws me off. And I know I can learn Blender because like I've used 3D programs before. I just gotta sit down and learn it. Because like you can get a lot done in a week. Like even if it's just a week's worth of learning, like that's a lot can happen within that time. I just gotta make that time. But yeah, it's just, it's like learning something, if you have the time to do it, it can be fun and stuff like that, so I know I can learn it. I just, because like I've been looking at some tutorials whenever I can, just to kind of get the gist of what I'm going to be getting myself into. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that's not too difficult, I can learn this. Okay, I should probably get her legs and all that set up first. she's gonna be wearing. Just draw over that. And then I've also been taking the time to look into more painting techniques and stuff like that, because I want to do more painted artwork, because I've only done a few of those every so often. But mostly just learnings to see if there's anything I can do to kind of shrink down the time, because I can get them done in about 6-ish hours. Kind of depends on what the drawing is, honestly. Because like sometimes drawings will only take me like 3 hours. Like if I just go start to finish, no distractions, no trying to figure out how something looks and stuff like that, like I just know what I'm going to be doing, then I can get it done in like 3 hours. But if it's like something really new or outside of the norm, then I'm sitting there trying to figure it out, seeing what works, what doesn't. Yeah, commissions can do that. For me, the reason why I don't delegate certain things to other people, because I know that people have said like, oh, you can have this person color the comic and stuff like that, and I'm like, I could, but then there's gonna be like some type of detail that I feel would be better if I just did it myself. Or like sometimes there's just certain ways I want to do things that I can't exactly explain. I don't know. I mean, I understand some people can split the work and stuff like that. It's just a me thing. But yeah, I think once the Kiwi comic's done, things will flow better again, because that way I don't have so much going on. Because Kiwi's comic alone was like, anytime a new card was required, I would have to, make new art. Like, I think one of the pages was like at least 2 or 3 cards were new, so I had to like make the artwork for it. Or for both of them, and both of them took at least 3 hours each. So that was like 6 hours plus drawing the page itself. So yeah, it's just a matter of what page required what. And then I'm thinking about reworking the first page for the next for the second chapter of I Had Two, because I kind of not exactly learned a few new things, but there's just like some stuff that I wanted to fix up before proceeding, because it's like, well, it's the first page, I can fix it up before I go any further. So I'll likely be doing that. And then I just need to, I need to put more time into backgrounds too. Like, a lot of time, like, I'll draw the background and, you know, like, establish where the characters are and what they're doing and all that. But, like, after a while, it's like, well, we already know they're in X area, so just draw a void for now. Actually, we can move this up a bit. Like, unless there's something very specific that I need to show off, a void is fine as long as, you know, it's not taking up too much of the panels. It's like, oh, it's just this big giant nothing. Yeah, that should be alright. If I need to make adjustments, I will. Yeah, it pretty much just depends on the project. It's like, you know, if you're able to split the work with people, then that's like after careful planning and, you know, learning the ups and downs of everybody and stuff like that. But that's usually when you have a project where like the character designs are already, you know, fleshed out. You already have the plot written down and scripted and stuff like that, thumbnails. Like, that's more of a thing where, you know, you've put the project together and that's usually when it, you know, you've been planning this for a few years now. So that way when you roll it out, it's not like you're not doing too much guesswork at that point. Like, obviously there's still going to be hiccups somewhere, but for the most part you're going to already be past a lot of the hurdles. That's what I was looking for. Yeah. And sometimes you gotta be careful about being a perfectionist. Like, I have this issue still where you'll notice something wrong or you want to fix something on a picture, but it could be something so minute that the audience will not notice it at all, but you'll notice it and you'll want to be the one to fix it, and so you'll take the time to fix it. Like, even if nobody will ever notice it, you'll notice it, and so you'll want to fix it. Yeah, like every once in a while there'll be a detail that I'll just leave alone. It's like, no one's gonna notice this. And then every once in a while I'll see it and be like, I should fix that. And then I just leave it alone. It's like, no, we're past this. Her name is Little Dolly Death. I wanted to use her for like more spooky stories or undead-based stories, like kind of like around the same areas that Chewie lives in, like, you know, vampires and other monster characters. So like I could have her either being the Grim Reaper, or having a similar task as a Grim Reaper, but like for like specific areas. Let's play this one. Yeah, like she could probably be someone who does like specific tasks for Chewie, so that could probably be a thing. Or it could even just be like a short story where someone's died and they're like having a hard time moving on, and like Dolly Death just comes to kind of listen to them talk, and just have Dolly Death like not speak. She's just kind of there to consult them and help them move on. She could probably be like a Reaper that's made for like an in-between scenario. Yeah. Like a Reaper specifically for kids would probably work best. Because that way she's like a little less threatening. Like, obviously you have this skull underneath her mask and all that, but that's probably what the paper bag would be for, just to make it easier. And like, can even make a kid curious, like, oh, you know, why are you wearing the bag? And can make Dolly like kind of move away because she doesn't want to scare them. And it kind of just depends on who she's talking to if she ends up taking it off. Yeah, that's a lot of things. People think that if they're at a certain age, it's too late to kind of start doing something. Like there are people who are like in their 30s and 40s who think, oh, you know, because the biggest thing was that people who used to draw in like high school or even when they were way younger but had to like stop for whatever reason. They think that, you know, oh, they were okay at drawing back in the day, but now that they stopped and they're like in their 30s or 40s or older, they think that it's too late to get back into that stuff and, you know, and do something with it. And the reality is like, no, you can start any time. What you get out of it is, you know, how much work and stuff you've put into it. And, you know, whatever reaction your followers or audience or whoever you're aiming it for does for it. So there's never too late to start something. It's like, it doesn't matter how old you are, just if it's something you want to do it. Yeah, because when it comes to art, I mean, you get out of it as much as you put in. And like, some people have asked me, like, you know, how do you get better at drawing? And for me, the best answer is just start a comic. It doesn't matter how shitty the comic is. You don't have to post it anywhere. Like, because it's not the point. The point is, if you start a comic, it's forcing you to draw your characters over and over and over and over again. And over time you're going to be refining it, because like one of the sayings about art is like, you know, it takes like 1,000 drawings before you get anything decent. So drawing a comic is kind of like a faster way to get 1,000 drawings going, because you're constantly drawing your characters into panels and stuff. You're forced to, you know, put them in different positions, and if there's a position that you're struggling with, you practice on that for a while, and then you move on. Because that's the best way to do it, at least to me, because I've always wanted to draw comics, so I've been constantly doing that over and over and over. '21 started about a year ago. Like, you got to put in a bunch of practice. It's not. Sometimes it won't happen until like way later of improvement, and it just depends on, you know, how you're going about it. And because like, it's hard for me to tell you, you know, what areas to improve on, because I would have to see what you're attempting to do and stuff like that. But basically, like, whatever you're struggling in, just focus on that for a while. So like, say you can't draw hands for whatever reason, just do nothing but draw hands for a bit. Like, try to learn like the basic structure of a hand. Another way to look at it is break up objects and features into shapes. So it's like, you know, here's this arm, and then, oh, these connect here, this connects here, this bulges out. Oh, here's the elbow. Okay, draw the elbow. Go here. Because usually like the shapes will be like more narrow and stuff like that, and you just go there. And, you know, you'll have like a muscle or something that's like here, so, you know, you're just breaking things down into a shape. That's all it really is. And then when it comes to like lighting and shading, you know, you just do it as accordingly as possible. And this is, you know, a really rough way of looking at it. But yeah, like, you know, you're just breaking it down to shapes. It's like, it only looks complicated until you realize what it actually is, and then it's really easy. It's like if you watch Bob Ross, and you watch how he goes from start to finish with a painting, and you'll see that it's ridiculously easy the way he does it, and the end result looks amazing. It's like, if you just sit down and watch one painting video of Bob Ross, you'll see how crazy simple it actually is. Because a lot of times he's just like making little dashes here and there. but like those dashes end up start adding up over time. Yeah, I've seen some of those videos. One hurdle people have at times. Generous. Yeah, and sometimes you just gotta start from the very bottom to start with basic shapes and stuff like that. Yeah, and sometimes just rewatching the same video over and over and over and over is also helpful, because you want to at least learn one aspect of something clearly before you move on to something more complicated or something that is like a harder variation of what you were already trying to study. So you just gotta take your time. Like, try not to like I know that, you know, people just want to learn everything they can really quickly, but sometimes you just gotta really take things slow and just, you know, learn the process, learn what you're trying to learn before you go further. Because if you don't learn one part and they start using it in later practices and stuff like that, like, let's just say, okay, I drew a circle, but now the next step requires spikes and stuff like that. If I haven't learned to draw the circle yet, like I keep doing it like this, then, and I'm trying to do the spikes the way they're doing it, then it's like, well, you didn't learn the circle, you gotta learn the circle first. So just, you know, take your time, learn one thing at a time if you need to. And sometimes you'll pick it up really quickly and be like, okay, I know how to do this, moving on. And that's great. If you can learn something immediately, awesome. Yeah, it's like learning a language, you know. You gotta take your time and pick up on it. Like, I like watching Kamen Rider, and every once in a while I'll watch it without subtitles when they post it raw, because they haven't had a chance to sub it yet. And sometimes I can pick up on what's going on because I've been slowly picking up some of the dialect here and there. Like, obviously I can't speak or read Japanese or anything like that, but every once in a while I'll know what they're saying based on hearing certain terms that I've already heard over and over again because I've been watching it for so long. So it's just one of those things where it's like, over time you'll get it. But you're only gonna get it if you put the time in it, or into it, because you gotta, you know, you gotta put in the work. You can't just like watch one video and then you got it. You gotta watch it over and over so that way you understand it. So that one has 5. It's broken into that. Interesting. Let's do it this way. Fix up this. Handles. Yeah. Yeah, and then the other part of it is that, you know, art is extremely subjective. So it's really hard to tell somebody what is good and what isn't, because everyone's style can be so dramatically extreme that you could have somebody who draws, you know, like a simple like a kid's book style or something like that, or even stick figures. Like, you know, there are people who get very far with just stick figure drawings, and then there are other people who, you know, draw something crazy, like, you know, a Marvel comic or a manga or something like that. and both of them can be good, because if you're trying to like make like a story but like all you can do is draw stick figures, well then if that's all you could do, like let's just say for whatever reason stick figures is as far as art style you can get, then have a lot of your other points be in storytelling. So, like kind of think of it as like a trait system. It's like okay, I put in 10 points in writing, but I only have 8 points left. Okay, I'll use 4 points for my stick figures, and then 4 points for, I don't know, let's just say presentation. So like, okay, let's like, even though it's stick figures, what can I do to make them stand out? So like, you know, maybe you'll make the comic flashy with colors or something like that, or maybe you'll have like the writing be focused on like a particular theme, like, I don't know, horror or something. Make it spooky stick figures somehow. Like, it's doable, it's just it boils down to how you do it. Right now the character doesn't really have any story, but yeah, considering probably being a Grim Reaper for kids would probably be the best. And I am making this harder than I need to. So first, let's just remove these. Draw the bucket first, and then we can put in the handles. I was making this way harder than I needed to. Yeah, like, I know I still need plenty of work on my coloring and shading and stuff like that. Well, for me, coloring is just, you know, it's just the flat colors and that's it. I know that people tackle coloring in very different ways. Like, people use a wider range of color palette, which I don't normally do, because the most coloring I've done is with the painted styles that I've been learning. Because like the way that I do things, I kind of try to streamline it a bit, so that way it doesn't take me too much time to get it done. But I also don't want it to look too bad, so I try to stylize it as best as I can. We skipped a few lately. I'll be honest, Halloween is my favorite holiday. I will never get tired of Halloween. I love dressing up in costume. God help me if I ever get a Becky fursuit. If I ever got a fursuit, it would have to be Becky. Like, she's ridiculous enough that I would want to have one made of her. Yeah, and it would be cute, like, if she's, like, in a grave and, like, a soul hasn't moved on yet, and they're, like, upset and stuff, and they don't want to, you know, move on. She can, like, give them a piece of candy from her bucket to help, you know, calm them down. Could be, like, butterscotch or something. Or it could be like the favorite candy of whoever she's giving it to. So it doesn't matter what's in there. Like, that'd be cute. Probably round it out a little later. Kind of want to get the initial look down. Let's put this like down for a bit. And then sometimes you'll have moments where you go through all this work drawing something in particular, but then you end up erasing it because whatever it is you're drawing takes up the space or look of whatever it was, and it's just like, that's how it is, because it's basically like how people use construction lines, which I do not do because I'm weird. But that's like the closest to construction lines that I would get, because it's like, okay, I just need this to set up the object or pose or dress or whatever. But it would probably make my life a lot easier if I just did construction lines, but I don't. Smaller. Hello. Welcome everyone who's been popping in and out. But yeah, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, sometimes things just take time. And then other times the thing to take into account is timing too, because sometimes you'll have a comic or drawing or story that just comes out at the right time. And sometimes that's something you would have to research too. It's like, you know, okay, what are people into right now? And then take advantage of that. And you don't have to, it's just sometimes that helps. It's not a necessity, but it's definitely something to think about, depending on what you're trying to do. Like when I drew I Hat, the version with Marcy and Skylar, because there was going to be a different I Hat before them. The whole reason why I made them was just because I could not read another weight gain comic, because the person was just not putting out pages anymore. So I just said, screw it up, do it myself. Done. That's the entire reason why that version of I Hat came out. Because of spite. Yeah, me, I just got used to freestyling so much that that's how I ended up drawing. Whether it be a bad thing or a good thing. Actually, the way this is done. But because I've been doing it for so long, I just, you know, slowly worked it out and improved on it over time. Because a lot of people sometimes get confused, like, wait, you don't draw construction lines? I'm like, no. I start with the eyes and move on from there. Oh, yes. Actually, he's kind of doing the same thing. probably need to expand it out more because it's kind of floofier, but worst case scenario, I end up just using this picture as a base and then make a second picture for the final, because I've done that a couple of times. I don't have a problem using this one as a reference. I can get rid of this. Yes. I'll be getting the next auction ready, hopefully tomorrow. I just have to decide who I want to draw and what theme I want to put them in. I was thinking about doing watermelon. Since she has giant titties, you can already think about where that's going. But then there's other characters too that I haven't had a chance to get some attention from me, so I might do them too. So, or I mean, I got 8 slots to work with right now, so. And then after the first auction, I'll experiment with a different method to see if that's better for everybody. Because people were suggesting that I do a drive instead, so that way more people can have a chance to get the artwork. So I might do that. Be a little too low. Well, no, that was the reason why I did that. Just smooth that out a bit. Out a little bit further out here. Let's get rid of this one. Issue I'm having is that I'm trying to restrict myself when I get towards a line, and I'm trying to stop myself from doing that. There. And I'll probably put in some details that I didn't normally have. Oh yeah, that'd be funny if Watermelon met her. Just have a big titty off. That or they both wouldn't even care and just take advantage of it, of the situation. She probably would. She'd probably like, oh, this bitch thinks she has big tits. What the hell? Or she'll probably just like try to mock her. It's like, oh goodness, they are big, aren't they? I hope you're not having any back problems, dear. Because Watermelon wouldn't have any of those issues. Older cartoon characters. They got away with so much shit. Like the cartoon where Donald looks at porn. But like the machine breaks at the part where the character starts taking off her clothes. And so he's all getting pissed off and trying to get the machine to work. I still laugh that there was a fucking cartoon where Donald and Daisy go on a date, and Daisy had given Donald a talk about his temper tantrums and his anger management and stuff like that. So he goes through the episode, you know, trying not to get angry because Daisy had threatened that if he kept losing his cool, then she was going to break up with him. And so he goes to the episode, you know, keeping his cool and all that. They go to a restaurant. Goofy is their waiter, so you already know that's going to cause issues. And then it gets to the point where Goofy is taking some of the dishes away, and a random pea is still like on the tray, on the plates, and it falls into Daisy Duck's chest, and Goofy was going to get the pea out, and he like rolls his eyebrows a bit as he says, he's like, oh, let me get that, ma'am, and he like looks at the camera, and I'm like, oh, this asshole, he was gonna go for it. But then, you know, a bunch of shit happens, and Donald is about to lose his cool, but then Daisy is the one that loses her shit. And then both of them finally start losing their shit, and then Goofy just looks at them and is like, oh, look at this lovely pair, or something like that. It's like, oh, they're lovebirds, like they're made for each other type of thing. And then the episode's over. And I'm just sitting there going like, we really had this happened in this episode where they took advantage of that situation. I was like, wow. Nowadays they probably get shit for it or some bullshit. Yeah, Dance of the Seven Fails. That was a great episode. I enjoyed that. Yeah, older cartoons got away with so much. Honestly, for the better, because some of the newer cartoons are either very restricted, or they're either really restricted, or if they are allowed to do something adult, they like take it a little bit too far. Like they take it to the extreme, only because they can, and it kind of takes away from what they're doing. Because it's like the whole point of the older cartoons was like, a lot of times it was subtle. It was either subtle, or depending on, obviously, like if it was something like Spawn, then, you know, they could get away with it if they wanted to, but it wasn't like a constant. It wasn't just there for the sake of being there. Because I know with Spawn in particular, the first season, the only reason why it's like super violent is to get rid of the people who would not watch the show. Because the whole point is to get rid of the audience members who would think immediately, oh, this is disgusting, or oh, I can't believe they're doing this, like how is this a cartoon type of thing, and then they would not watch the show. And then if you stuck around, then that's when you get all like the plot and stuff like that. Because in later seasons, it's not as violent; it's more plot heavy and character development and stuff like that. And that was the trick. It's like, all right, let's get rid of the people who are just going to be snobs. And that was kind of the point. Okay, so did all that. Need a tail. Draw it a little raggedy. And then apparently with like the old Spider-Man cartoon, they just chose to not have Spider-Man punch people all the time when he fights. Because I guess that was like a big rumor that that for censorship reasons they couldn't have Spider-Man punch anybody, which apparently wasn't the case. It's like, no, they just chose not to. Everyone, and because the guy who was directing it, he pointed out, was like, you know, there were episodes where Spider-Man would punch somebody. They were just very few and far between. Yeah. The instrumental ones were pretty fun. Because they didn't have too much or any dialogue, and you just see them go through whatever the scenario was. I still have the short where Donald was in one of the wars. The old military cartoons. I can't remember if I have the one where Porky Pig says "son of a bitch." If I don't, I should look for it and get it. Sometimes certain cartoons would get censored for like the most stupid thing. Like Angry Beavers, they got there was an episode where they say "shut up, stupid," and for whatever reason they had to censor that so that they say "shush up, stupid," and I was like, what? Like, I hate censorship so much, because it's just like, guys, just let them do the goddamn story or cartoon the way they wanted to do it. Like in regular show, when Mordecai would say, "you pissed me off," but then they later on changed it to "tick me off." And I'm just like, what? Let's make this straighter. And regular show was interesting because it would come on right before Adult Swim. So I always looked at it as okay, this is an Adult Swim cartoon that just wasn't part of Adult Swim. Because sometimes they would do some, like, crazy antics. But it was, like, just green enough where it didn't have to be an Adult Swim. Oh, yeah. And the funny thing is, with the code, they don't technically have to follow it. It just wouldn't be approved by whatever board was in charge of all that. So like if parents were to complain or something like that, it's like, well, this cartoon is not part of our code or whatever, so, you know, you have to, you know, watch or read comics that didn't follow those things with, you know, caution. And I think like for a while there was like some comic book stores or comic companies or something where they wouldn't sell those comics without the code or some shit like that, which was really dumb. Which was why they had to like water down some comics. But then the comics that didn't have the code is like, well, you can sell them if the store is willing to carry them. It's kind of like what happened with video games, how we have the adults only tag, but none of the stores want to sell those games for whatever freaking reason. It's like we have an a adults only rating, AO, but stores don't want to sell it. And it was really dumb. So some games had to be changed or censored just so they could sell it. It was really dumb. Because I know, I think it was San Andreas for Grand Theft Auto that has a AO version because of the whole hot coffee thing. Even though the hot coffee scene you can't actually see unless you hack the game. But they rated the game adults only, but like none of the stores would sell it, so they had to actually take the scene out of the game and then change the rating to M. Even though you couldn't actually see the scene. Yeah, they should just, like, the game ratings should just be more universal and just do the whole, you know, rated PG, G, R, X, whatever you need to do, because there is an X rating. Like, just change it, and then there you go. Just make it consistent, and there you go. Yeah, and I understand, like, it's all about, you know, stores wanting to be able to sell the products and stuff like that, but you should allow people to choose. Hell, if you made two different versions where it's like, okay, here's the adult version, and then here's the version without the good shit in, so now here's the, I don't know, rated R version or the PG-13 version, then go for it. Like they did that with Deadpool 2, when they made the Christmas version. And the Christmas version was great. Like, it had extra scenes that wasn't in the original. They made it their own. Like, it was great. But yeah, it's like, you shouldn't be penalized for the type of story you want to tell just because certain people can't handle it for some idiotic reason. It's like when people told me back in the day, it's like, oh, fat people aren't attractive, or oh, you shouldn't do that, it's not healthy. And I was like, one, it's a goddamn drawing. Two, I know damn well it's not good for if you were to do this in real life, which is why, again, it is a drawing. And three, how the hell do you know what is attractive? I like thicker women, or thicker people in general, but still, it's just like, you know, I don't know why you're trying to push that kind of thought onto me. So it was just dumb. And then it's like, it became like the whole like, okay, if you don't like this content, then why are you here? It's like one of those scenarios where it's like, oh, I don't like this, but I'm gonna go knee deep into it just to tell you that I don't like it. It's like there's always somebody that's like that, and I don't get it. This was before I even got, you know, a little bit more decent with the anatomy on thicker characters. So it was just like early days of like me drawing Nemesis, and somebody commenting like, "Oh, like people like you shouldn't draw that." And I was like, "Get the hell out! I don't care." Like, didn't stop me in high school. Is not stopping me now. Although now that I think about it, because I did a presentation in high school about censorship in art, and I used one of my comics as an example, and it was the one with Essence being attacked by a tentacle monster. And it didn't occur to me till years later that I was like, wait, I just showed tentacle porn in front of my entire class and got an A. And it was probably because I was so serious about the topic that I wasn't like, you know, showing it as a joke or anything. It's like I was just 100% serious about why I think censorship is bullshit that I got an A. Because I wasn't even thinking about it in that fashion. But it didn't click to me until like years later. I was like, wait, I just did that and didn't even bat an eye to it. Ah, good times. And that's why I like English class. Anyway. Nah. I mean, I do like English class. English class was always fun. Yeah. Because I was just like, I was showing like examples of like, you know, in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where originally they would have guns, but for whatever reason they would switch them with freaking slingshots or just remove it entirely, so like the character's just pointing in a weird way for some reason. And it was just dumb. Like, I did not see the point of it. It's like, let the person tell the original story the way it's supposed to be. Don't censor it. It's like, there's just, you know, if it's for a particular audience, let that audience experience the content. Don't just water it down for the sake of trying to make it more family friendly, which is dumb. Because like, it would be like being in a situation where you're trying to, I don't know, let's just say you're trying to experience Final Fantasy VII, and you know, you get to the infamous scene with Aerith, and you get a censored version where it's like, oh no, she just goes home. Like, let's just say like Aerith went home for whatever reason, and for the rest of the game you just couldn't use her. So you get into a conversation with friends or whatever who have played the original version, and you're like, oh yeah, it was so sad when Aerith had to go home to her mother for whatever reason. And then your friends are going to be looking at you going like, what the hell are you talking about? That doesn't happen. Yeah, 4Kids was dumb. Like, I'm glad it was mostly 4Kids that did this. Like, there wasn't too much censorship from other companies I'm aware of, at least. I mean, obviously, if there was like, because I know in Dragon Ball Z in the earlier days, whenever they would show characters naked, there would always be like some type of bush or something in the way. But like, at least it was something that made a little bit more sense. Not just, let's just change dialogue or the entire scene of a situation just to appeal to that. Because like in Sonic X, when one of the characters dies in the Japanese version, you see the character just get fucking obliterated by gunships and stuff. In the 4Kids version, which again this is 4Kids, they rework the scene to make it look like she fled from battle. Like they rearranged the footage to make it look like she just left. And I was just like, what the hell? Because at that point you're not even getting the same impact from the scene. And like even changing things as much as like music can be enough to like completely alter the way you're thinking of a situation. Like in Pokemon when Pikachu gets frozen by Regice, and in the Japanese version you're having like violins playing because it's supposed to be like a sad scene because you're supposed to think that, oh, Pikachu is frozen and is not going to be able to continue, he's going to lose the battle. And then in the English version, again, this is 4Kids because 4Kids has the biggest amount of examples of this stuff. In the English version, it's just like a bunch of like drums and I think it was like trumpets going on or even like guitars or whatever. It was just more upbeat, and there was like no sense of danger. It's like it didn't make me feel like Ash was gonna lose that battle at all. Like I didn't feel like, oh, it's not gonna work. Like changing things like that can completely take you in a different direction of a scene or even give you the wrong impression of it. So I heavily dislike censorship because of that reason. I would say like situations like Power Rangers is a completely different scenario because Power Rangers and Super Sentai are practically two different shows. Like they use similar or the same footage in a lot of cases, mostly just the fights and all that, and maybe some scenes that the English version decides to use that are similar to the Japanese version. But they are in two entirely different shows. Like they have different villains, different plot lines. Sometimes reworking characters to be good guys instead of bad guys and stuff like that. Like they go above and beyond to make it a completely different show. So as far as I'm concerned, that's not even censorship at that point. It's just an entirely different show. Oh yes, the Shadow Realm. Which is funny because there is a dark realm in the Japanese version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like there is like a dark world or a dark universe and stuff like that. It just doesn't work in the way that they presented it in 4Kids. Like characters die in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like Bakura kills Bones. You just straight up kills him. Or when Yugi attacks Bakura during their final duel, Bakura gags out blood. Or I love the scene where Bakura is like, or Yami Bakura is possessing Bakura's body and eating a steak, and Bakura just has this blank look on his face as he stabs a steak and he eats it and there's just blood dripping from his mouth. I think that one was only in the manga. In the anime, he grabs the steak and takes like a big, vicious bite out of it. Or Dark Necrofear and the baby. Like, they completely removed the baby from the English version. Oh yeah, if any of my characters, like if Kitsune, for example, was part of 4Kids, they'd have her wear clothes. To her dismay, because she's a nudist. Like, a lot of stuff would be censored from my shit, like, no doubt. Okay, I'll draw the bag later, after I get everything else done. Okay, so let's just... Do I need to change anything? No, because if I ever put this as a card, it's mostly just going to be focused on her, not the scythe. Unless I really want to zoom out and have the scythe on it. situation. Now when I'm drawing characters, I have to kind of take into consideration of them having a card. Okay, so it should be good now, because I have her body and her head separated. So we'll do her head last in color. But yeah, like if I have with Marcy and Skylar were to be a 4 kids, I don't even like I don't even know how they would handle the whole weight gain thing for one. Well, actually, that would probably be the most normal part of it. So they'd probably just say, like, oh, she's getting fatter because she's been spending so much time hanging out with him. And then they'd probably censor out all the dark undertones that Skylar would have. It's like, oh, he's not evil, he just likes to cook. Which, I mean, that's kind of the whole point anyway. Of him trying to stay undercover. But yeah, I think just a majority of Skylar's stuff would probably get censored. They probably would censor Blake kissing Marcy. Probably would censor out Blake going to her brother's store just so it doesn't look like she has family issues or something. Yeah, they would just cut a bunch of scenes entirely. Like, the entire series would just be Marcy and Skylar hanging out or dating, and then Marcy's just getting fatter because Skylar likes to cook a lot for her, and that'd be about it. And then any nudity or whatever would just get censored out. Like, the scene would just get cut. And they'd probably edit on clothes for her during the scenes where she's naked. Oh yeah, with Tiffany. Yeah, it would end with Tiffany getting fat, them censoring a bra on her so that way she's not naked, or just covering her up entirely, whatever they choose. And then in the next scene, you'll probably get some random dialogue from Marcy or Blake saying, "Oh my God, did you hear about Tiffany? She got so fat." All of a sudden, and she stayed home, or they're trying to figure out what's wrong with her, or she's in the hospital, or some bullshit. Like they'll make up dialogue just to account for the character, because that has happened before in 4Kids stuff. Like they do it all the time. Like they took a character from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds who kind of looked like Jinochi / Joey from the other versions. And in the Japanese version, it's just some random guy. In the English version, they made up a thing. It was like, oh, is that Joey? He's like, no, that's his cousin. That's his cousin Jesse or some shit like that. Or whatever the hell the name they gave him. And I was just like, really? This random-ass character who has nothing to do with Joey, they just made up dialogue to say that he was related to him. And it didn't take away anything, it was just there. Like, it didn't add anything. There was, like, no lore behind it. If they were to randomly use that character in a future season, that would probably solely just be just because it was used in the English version or something. Let's make her a little bit thinner. Yeah, like they always do that. Alright, take care. Yeah, like originally Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a horror manga before the card game stuff. Like that was the whole that was what the creator initially wanted Yu-Gi-Oh! To be. Yeah, because the whole point of the original Yu-Gi-Oh was that they were supposed to play a different game every situation, and then Yami Yugi would use the penalty game to torture or punish all the characters that he fought against, and a lot of them would cheat, which was why they always got horrible results and stuff like that. Like the Skull Bully that you see in both Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist and the first Yu-Gi-Oh! In the English version, he stabs himself in the hand, I believe. No, that was a different character. Yeah, it was him. He stabs himself in the hand, and then he tries to use the knife on Yugi, and then Yugi uses the penalty game and makes him like believe that leaves are money because he was so consumed by greed. And in the English version, they play an entirely different game. Yeah. Or when they kill a guy with nitroglycerin, or set up an escapee as on fire because he escaped prison. Then he ended up setting himself on fire with liquor and a lighter. Like Yugi kind of killed people back in the day. Or Yami Yugi did, at least. But yeah, because like even though there was season 0, like the anime, the book was still vastly different. Yeah. Because like Kaiba, because you have to remember, Kaiba is a high school student like they are, and so when they first meet him, he's just like, kind of chill until he gets all, I want the Blue Eyes White Dragon card and blah 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 blah. Then when he makes the Def T tournament, there's that one scene where it's like, hey, here's this haunted house, you have to find the key to get out. And so they're looking around, they don't see, and he's like, oh yeah, there's also a killer inside the haunted house. So they're looking around, they don't see the killer at all. They find the key, and then they realize that the killer's in the room with the key, and Jinoji is stuck in there. And so the guy is basically fucking Jason, or whatever the hell character he was supposed to be. And so he's all trying to, or I think it was like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And so he's all trying to kill him and stuff. They're stuck in the room's full of oil or something, and so the killer ends up getting set on fire. Oh yeah, the electric chair, or when Kaiba was gonna kill his own brother. Like that shit was gonna happen. Yeah, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Had a lot of violent stuff. Like, and again, good for them that the card game took off. But damn. Like, it still had some horror elements later on, but and even with the card game stuff, but like imagine if it had stayed the way it was. Well, for one, we wouldn't have the card game, so that's a huge change. Okay, I think I got what I want. I can get rid of this. Yeah, the one in the restaurant was the one with the lighter. But yeah, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Did a lot of shit. Or like, Yugi increased the volume of a guy's heartbeat to drive him crazy. Alright, I think we're good. The hard part is going to be drawing all these flowers and shit on her. So I think in the future, if I could probably just do whatever right now, but in the future, if I'm going to be consistent with it, I'll probably just make like a pattern to put on her at all times. Or just make it up as I go, because it's probably not going to be super consistent. I should probably save, because I've been drawing this whole time and haven't saved shit. Well, the card game story kind of gets merged with the original story, because especially the parts with Bakura, because Bakura is tied into it pretty heavily. Because like in the first arc where when they first introduced Bakura, he makes the Dungeons and Dragons RPG castle and all that, and he traps Yugi and his friends into the game. He does that again at the end of the series with the Dark RPG or Dark Dungeon, and it's the exact same plot, just way more heavily tied into Yami Yugi or / Atem's backstory. So it pretty much came full circle. It was just they had the whole card game thing tie into it by being a part of Atem's history, because of the whole God card stuff. I just hope they animate Yu-Gi-Oh! R, because that was a really fun story. At least to me it was. I enjoyed Yu-Gi-Oh! R. Because honestly, I'm surprised they didn't animate that. It's still tied to the older characters, which makes it instantly more popular, because people love the older characters. So pretty much this boils down to when they do that. It'd be smart if they did. Colors. That reminds me, I still need to eventually change the UI so you can see my layers and stuff like that later. So I'll have to arrange the video or the screen at some point in the future. But yeah, like it's hard to say which was better, because technically they're both the same story. Would I say the events of the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Were better? Maybe a little. Just because there was more variety. And there was more development with the characters. Specifically, the relationship between Jinochi, Honda, Anzu, and Yugi and all that, because originally Jinochi was an asshole to Yugi, and then there was the whole relationship that Yugi was trying to have with Anzu. So there was some parts of that later on, but it was kind of taken by the wayside because of the card game stuff. They kind of hint to it in Dark Side of Dimensions, where Yugi's trying to do more with Anzu and stuff like that. But yeah, there was just more character development in the first arc, and then obviously the card game took over. I do like in Dark Side of Dimensions, it kind of shows that Kaiba didn't want to let go. And even though it mostly looked like he just wants, to get that rematch with Atem, it's also, at least to me, a sign that Atem was basically Kaiba's best friend. And he didn't want to believe that he was gone forever. Even if it was just to play in a game of cards forever, like for eternity, Atem was literally his best friend. And then you kind of see that in Dark Side of Dimensions, Kaiba is willing to die to see him again, because you see his life force fading away as he goes to see him, and he doesn't even tell Mokuba that he's coming back. I also like the fact that in the series, Kaiba has only had one or two actual games of the card game without any interference. Or if I think about it, I think he's only had one actual card game where, if you go off a plot, he's only had one actual card game where there was no interference, and that was against Joey. And that was it. No mystical BS. I guess the only other character you can count is probably Siegfried, or any other off-screen character or non-important character where he just beats them immediately. But nearly every game he was in, there was some kind of cheating or interference or BS, and he had to go through all that. He had to play games where obviously people were cheating, or the rules were swapped around or something. And the only time he had a legit game was against Joey. There was no cheating, there was no bullshit. They just played the game. So I always got a kick out of that there was rarely any time where Kaiba got to play the game without somebody interfering. Even if he was gonna win or lose, there was always some bullshit. Because in Pyramid of Light, he was going to win. In Dark Side of Dimensions, I believe he was going to lose. I'd have to re-look at that again, because I believe his face down card was polymerization, but it could have possibly been something else. But I'm pretty sure he was going to lose that one. But any other times, there was people reading his mind, looking to the future, manipulating the field in a way that it wasn't supposed to be manipulated, or the monsters and stuff like that. Because in Duelist Kingdom, you got to manipulate the cards in weird ways, using Living Arrow and fusing it with Mammoth Graveyard, so that way it fuses with Ultimate Dragon and causes it to fucking decay. Some weird shit like that. Oh yeah, to draw this. Or when he was playing against, or when he was with Yugi and they were going up against Loomis and Umbra, they had walkie-talkies in their masks. So there was no scenario where Kaiba was just can I just play my favorite game? I spent a fuck ton of money just to make 3D versions of all the creatures show up. And that's another thing, he decided to turned his father's company from a military-based thing, like he just Iron Man'd it, and just like, okay, we're not making weapons anymore, we're making children's card games. He did all of that to play his favorite card game. Even to the point where if you count other continuities and stuff like that, he is honored, like the people making the game honored him by making cards based off of him, like Kaiba Man. Anyway, that's enough rambling about card games. Sorry about that. Okay, so did all that. If we count filler, I think the other character he went up against was Lecter, because there was like nothing to distract him from that either. And we're gonna do colors. Should probably put those there. Anyway, if you guys have any more questions, feel free to ask. About to go off. Let's turn that off. Kind of fancy this up a bit. In our outfit. Oh yeah, I remember that movie. That was a good movie. Actually, let's look at Blake. Because Blake has pretty much the right color for this. Ah, there you are. There we go. Yeah, Trick or Treat was really good. I've only seen it once, but it was like a few years ago. But I enjoyed it. I liked all the little like twists and turns that the plot had. Because you think it's going one way, and then it's like, nope, nope, it's like this, and you're like, oh shit. Could probably make a scenario for like if when she's trying to like have a soul pass on, something else tries to like either corrupt or take the soul away, and that's when she takes the bag off of her head or something. And then like uses some crazy ability or something. That'd be fun. It's like, don't fuck with her job. Get the skull color for her tail. Alright, take your time. Okay, did all that. Probably make the bag probably glow or something to be all mystical inside. And then, now I'm thinking about it, I wanted to take a small intervention about, because I was thinking about, you know, people struggling with drawing and stuff like that. And you gotta remember, this was what Marcy looked like in the beginning. She looked like that. And then, this is like the most current version I have of her when she was skinny. Like, we got a decent difference. And this Marcy was only back in 2015. It wasn't that long ago. At least for me. And you just have to look at the progression of the comic to see how much he's changed. Well, technically, what was this the first? I think this was the first. Yeah, because I don't think I made the cover of the comic till later. But yeah, like when it comes to, like, you know, figuring out if you're trying to get better and stuff like that, I mean, it just takes time. Although with me, sometimes the quality of how I draw fluctuates depending on what I'm drawing. Because, like, this was back in 2015 with that Marcy, but then you also have... Let me see if I can find a these an example. Let's try these. Because these came before Marcy. What's a good one? Trying to find a good example. Probably try to find something older. Yeah, sure, why not? Can use this one. Like, this character is older than Marcy when I drew her. And if you want to get really freaking technical, where is it? Really? Was this 2004? Oh wait, no, it's a different comic. Here we go. I'm looking for even older than this. Oh, I know what it is. There we go. Here we go. Like, this was my stuff back in fucking high school, so... yeah, like, this is some old shit. Find a couple more examples. Oh yeah, Kitsune. Like, this was the first comic I drew of her back in high school. This is 2005. That's some old shit. She was still a slut anyway. Oh yeah, I did this. So yeah. Like, if you're ever worried about getting better, like, it will happen if you just keep drawing and put time into it. So nothing to worry about, just have fun, put time into it, try to flesh it out as best as you can over time, and there you go. It's nothing to worry about, just have fun and do it. Just enjoy it. Don't let anybody, try to discourage you either, because that's another thing that makes people think that it's not going anywhere, is when people try to either say that you're not improving or try to compare you with somebody else too often, because that's definitely going to happen. Sometimes it won't, because sometimes it depends on who you're talking to and the support group you have around that. But at the same time, you don't want people to 100% sugarcoat things. Like, you don't want them to lie to you, to tell you, like, oh, everything looks great. Like, it's okay to get critique, and, like, if somebody says, oh, I think the feet look too big, or the head is too big, or something, it's okay to look at it and decide if you're, like, you don't have to take what they say to 100% to heart, but at least consider it. Like, look at it and try to see what they're talking about, and if it's something that you agree with, then you make the effort to change it. And then outside of that, if you feel that it looks fine the way it is, then it's fine the way it is to you. Like, it's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with it. Like, again, art is heavily subjective. So, something that may look bad to one person might look awesome to another. It's up to you to decide what the final form of your artwork will be. And then also another thing to take into account is a lot of the time techniques are kind of irrelevant to a degree, because all you really need to care about is the end result of the drawing. So for like whatever techniques you have learned to get your drawing to the final look, that's all that matters. Like, if you had to use 100 techniques to make, I don't know, a chibi picture of a rabbit, then good, you made that chibi version of a rabbit. Done. If it took you 3 techniques to get the same result, awesome. That means you just saved time. Like, all that should matter to you is what it looks like in the end, and whatever techniques you have to do to get there, to get to that point, is technically irrelevant. It's just a matter of, did it get you the result you wanted? Yes? Great. Done. Don't stress over, oh, you need to learn Photoshop, or oh, you need to learn traditional, or your anatomy is not correct. It's like, as long as it looks the way you wanted it to look, then you're good. And there's no shame, and also there's no shame in, like, you know, looking at reference. Like, for some reason, some people like to tell you that, oh, looking at reference is bad. Because apparently that was like a thing, and at least in my time in high school, apparently that was a bad thing, where if you looked at reference too much or something like that, then it was considered bad. It's like, oh, well, this isn't your original idea, or some bullshit like that, which never made sense, because everything comes from some form of reference. Like, if you can draw something from your mind, like, 100%, that's awesome. Like, a lot of the time I do that too. Like, I'll just draw whatever, and then other times I'll look at reference if there's something very specific that I'm looking for. But ultimately, there's nothing wrong with looking at reference. Like, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. It just doesn't make sense. But then again, I'm coming from the time where people were saying, like, oh, drawing anime style is bad, and I was like, yeah, and it's like, I don't know what you're trying to do here. For me, I'm more inspired by Sonic the Hedgehog than anime. However you will take that, because I'm talking about, like, the Western version of Sonic. But I still like anime stuff. Like the eyes that I draw, I got from Yu-Gi-Oh! Or at least the way I draw it, and I don't know if it completely matches up with Yu-Gi-Oh! Or not. Probably doesn't. At least the whole mascara thing, I definitely got that from Yu-Gi-Oh! Like when characters have like the black lines and stuff underneath their eyes, and makes the little like pointy tip things that look like eyelashes. Definitely got that from Yu-Gi-Oh! But a lot of my inspiration comes from Sonic the Hedgehog. Especially the older Archie comics. Like, if you ever read Mecha Sonic vs. Mecha Knuckles comic, that comic's great. Fucking love it. The artwork is amazing. Loved it so much. I have the comic. On physical. I bought that so long ago. I remember when I was a kid just looking at the back of the comics, and it would always have the little advertisement of like, oh, order these special comics that you can only get through the magazine. I was like, someday I want it. And then I finally saved up enough to get one. And it was the Metal Sonic versus Metal Knuckles, or Mecha Sonic versus Mecha Knuckles. just need to do her floral designs. These I'll just keep it simple. Don't have to follow this exactly, but I want to get the general look. Kind of just random. They almost kind of look like they have grass behind them, so I might do that. Yeah, I'll probably keep that in mind. Flowers kind of weird. These two together in a moment. That's when I get to the grass. Yeah, if I want to put a more functional pattern on her, I'll have to make one to be more consistent. Keep the leggings parts, or the leg parts, white. Merge these together, and now she has that. Okay, pretty much good on this. I think if I ever redraw her or draw her again, I'll try to make her dress more poofy. this is a good start to a base look. Alright, so we're going to render her body because we're doing the head as a separate piece. I'm going to have to stop soon though. Let's see how far I can get before I have to stop. There's a shading technique I want to experiment with, but I'll probably mess around with that off stream. Out. No. Thought I could do it a different way. Save. All right. And like the way I do this is like I kind of have everything streamlined, so it's like there's like a system to everything I do when it comes to the shading now. But there's some techniques that I want to experiment with to see if I can make the process a little bit like both simpler and still look good. Next stream we'll draw a thicker character. Maybe I'll draw Fat Blake because she doesn't have a profile pic. Neither does Small Mercy or Mini Mercy. Well, actually, Mini Mercy might have one technically, because I can always use that one pic of her from the comic. But if I want to give her a more standard pose, then I'll have to make a new one. Can do Blake's parents as well at some point. I'll probably have to do two versions if I ever want to explain the ones from the canon timeline. If there's even anything to explain. Huh. Now I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about the episode of Daria where Jane was asked to make replicas of artwork, and she thought that they were being sold as originals, and she found out like no, the people buying them were not dumb. Like they knew that they were just copies and stuff like that. But the point that one of the characters was trying to make to her was like, you know, you draw some replicas here and there, and you know, you work your way up into, you know, doing your own thing. And that's kind of like a way to explain with artists how they have to draw fan art to, you know, get attention, so that way people, you know, will look at their stuff. And that makes sense, because, you know, sometimes fan art's a necessary evil, because, you know, you need to attract attention so that way you get traffic to your artwork, and then you start showing off your own characters, and then people will get into that. So it was just something I was thinking about. I was like, oh yeah, it is kind of like that with how they portrayed it in Daria. I should watch that episode again sometime. Daria's a great show. Erase a little bit of the light here. Should make the lighting a bit different, but whatever. Let's see. Let me fix that now. Decided to get rid of these lines, because if I'm going to make something glow inside it, then it should be more obvious. Dress, a little bit of lighting here. I still wish they had turned that April Fool's trailer of Daria, the live action movie. I really wish they had actually done that. At least I think it was April Fool's, and one of the just like random trailers, because I know they did one that was Zelda, like way back in the day, and it would have looked nice too. Like the production value was really high. I'm still curious on why Nintendo doesn't make animes of their characters. Like, it just seems like a no-brainer. They did like Kirby, and that was about it. Kirby and F-Zero. Which I'm surprised they even did freaking F-Zero, given how they treat the game series. Because like the battle between Link and Pit for Smash Brothers, that little anime skit was great and everybody loved it. Oh yeah, that even that for Star Fox Zero, that looked cool too. Like, I'm surprised that they didn't go further with that. And like they have the little skits for Pikmin too. So it's like they want to do something like that, but they're not like 100% committed for some reason. When I'm pretty sure it would be successful. I mean, Nintendo is basically just video game Disney. That's what they are. It's like, it's not like Disney doesn't have any nitty-gritty content because they have Pirates of the Caribbean and Touchstone movies and stuff like that, so Nintendo can easily do that. Yeah, like the Kid Icarus short animes that they did. It's like they have all this stuff, but they're not like committed enough to make like a full series. Like even if it's just like, I don't know, 12 episodes if you want to make it like a full season, or if you're gonna go like the Fooly Cooly route and make it only like 6 episodes, which was basically kind of like what Kid Icarus was, but I think Kid Icarus was like 3. Yeah, it's like they have all this potential and they're not using it. I mean, obviously there's Pokemon, but Pokemon is more of a... It's like 3 companies in one, technically. But still, like, Pokemon's like the only anime that they're focused on. Granted, probably makes them a fuck ton of money, but still, it's like their other series can easily make them the money. Like, come on, who wouldn't want to watch an anime of Metroid? Especially after Dread came out. It's like, come on. Like, that would be awesome if they did it. And given, like, the range of what Nintendo's willing to do, it could almost look like anything, really. It could be, like, the CG that Star Fox used. It could be the anime style that Kid Icarus used. They could probably make it a little bit more, a little bit more realistic, like the way Dread looks in general. It's just like, I don't know, this is weird. I wonder why they, like, I would love for somebody to just ask them that. It's like, hey, how come you guys don't make animes? Like, what's up with that? Just seems like a no-brainer. Because, like, people want to see more of the characters. Like, even if it's not even, like, a video game, like, because, like, obviously they're, like, doing whatever with F-Zero and Earthbound and all that. But it's like, if they were to make animes, like, they already did with F-Zero, but if they were to make an anime with Earthbound, like, that's more of the characters that they get to see. And, like, even if they just redid the games, like, just as an anime, that's, like, more, well, maybe not more than enough because people want more games and stuff, but that would be, like, a good addition to it. Yeah, like the Robot Chicken thing that they did, that was funny. I'm surprised they even did that in the first place, because they did the puppets thing. Like, they spent money to do that stuff, and then they used it, like, one time. Or they did it one time, and then that was it. Like, again, with, like, you know, the Pikmin shorts and the previous animes that they've done. It's just like, I wonder if it's just, like, maybe they didn't get, like, good reception back in the day when they did it. Or maybe they're just not focused on it, they just don't want to do it. I'm just curious on why they haven't. Oh yeah, it's like, come on, give us Mother 3. He's like, how about this instead? He turns into Fire Reggie and just burns him. But yeah, it's just surprising that they haven't made any shows off of... Like, even if it was just to... Like, with the whole Star Fox Zero thing, if they just made, like, another short of, like, another obscure series just to test the waters. Like, I'm just surprised they haven't done it. Like make, like, a series of Yoshi. Like, come on. People like Yoshi, too. Or maybe it's just easier to tell the stories that they want to tell through video games. That could be the case. It's like, why bother with an anime when you can just, you know, have the game that people can get the content from, and then also they can play the game. So they're playing as the characters. So that could be the case. But I don't know. I think animes would also help. At that point, it probably just falls on to whether or not they're going to make a story that follows the game, or a story that takes place like before or after the games. And if they do, is it a story that they were going to make a game from, or they could tie it into a game if they wanted to, like a new game coming out. So yeah, kind of just depends on how they wanted to do it, but I guess it's just easier to make a game. I don't know. It would be great to ask somebody that, just out of sheer curiosity. Then again, who knows? Like sometimes Nintendo, well, most of the time Nintendo's hard to work with, especially when it comes to the lore of their characters. Like Rosalina being from a different timeline. Because in that timeline, Luigi's her father. Yeah, Mario, and Luigi, Mario. I had fun with that movie. Like, obviously the movie was like not like the best representation of Super Mario, but that movie was fun. I could watch that movie again. This is dumb fun. And plus that was like, you know, the 90s where people took well-known franchises, well, not well-known, they're for the most part starting out. Took franchises and just kind of, you know, made them loose versions of themselves. Like, for example, Batman. Like, if you go off of Batman and Robin, he had the whole Batman credit card thing. It was like, what? So, I mean, it's not like they're the greatest representations of the characters, but they were something. It was like a movie that built off of something. And then you just refine it over time. So even though the Super Mario movie wasn't like the greatest representation of Mario, it's something to go off of. And if they're doing that CG movie that's coming out, at least I assume it's CG, I believe it is. I mean, obviously it's easier if they just use the cartoon characters. But yeah, it's not like it was an idea that wouldn't work. Exactly. It's like, what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. The fact that they got Schwarzenegger to do that was just great. It was like, you know what? Not the greatest version of Mr. Freeze, but it's a fun one. It's like, I don't hate it. Like, it would take a lot. Like, I would rather watch Batman and Robin than Batman v Superman. Because that movie was just whatever. Like, when Batman and Robin is more coherent than freaking Batman v Superman or even Justice League, then there's a problem. Like, even the Snyder cut of Justice League was just like, yeah, I can see why it got changed for the theatrical version, or the Joss Whedon version. Because Joss Whedon took out a lot of stuff that just did not make sense in the Snyder version. And I was just like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense on why these things were changed. And you can already tell DC / Warner Brothers abandoned the franchise, or not the franchise, but just like that idea of what they were gonna do, because they already made a new Batman. And then they made the Joker movie that doesn't tie into anything. They just made it for the sake of making it. Which made me wonder why they went through with making Wonder Woman 2. I guess they were just, they had a contract, so they just said, fuck it, let's just make it and be done with it. Make whatever money they can. And that's the problem with the DC movies, is just they're not consistent and they're not committing. They're not being fully committed to the idea, because they were hella trying to rush with that series. It's like, we made one movie, now let's take all the characters and jam them into another movie. Yeah, that's why they had him do it in the first place. Because it was like, it's like, hey, we need help. And he looked at the material he was given, and he was just like, what? And I guess some of the actors were at least one of them, the Wonder Woman actress, she was trying to give him some or like, not feedback, but like some ideas of what to do with the characters and stuff. And he rejected the ideas, because it's just like, look, we're already trying to work with this in a short amount of time. And given the material he was given, I don't blame him. He was just trying to make it work. Because I guess, I forget what she was trying to do. I guess it was like give Wonder Woman more presence or something like that. I forget. I'll have to look into it. But it was just like, it was already crammed, and they had to change stuff as much as they could. Because he was trying to make the scenes be coherent. And he just removed stuff that just didn't make sense. Which, even then, with all the stuff he did manage to change, some stuff that did get in the movie still was just questionable. But it was what it was. It's just, because the hard part was like, because obviously he had to like follow certain guidelines of what to keep in and stuff, because if they were trying to set up for later movies with the footage that he had, then he had to keep in certain things, even if they didn't make sense. Yeah. And like, I'm pretty sure he says it. He says the catchphrase. Cyborg says the catchphrase, but it's like they didn't even really put much emphasis in it. They just had him say it, and then that was kind of it. Becky just has the one, like, it's not technically canon that she has a Quaxley. For the joke, she has one. But if I was to go off an actual canon, she does not own one, because Pokemon don't exist in their world. But yeah, like, Justice League was just a game of catch-up. And they weren't even trying to make it work very well. Like, one of the weird things I have with the Flash, for example, was just like how every little thing he does, there's electricity. It's kind of like the same problem I have with Sonic and the Sonic movie. Like, I enjoyed the Sonic movie for what it was. Like, not to me, not the greatest Sonic movie I've ever watched. Like, I still prefer the cartoon Sonic movie, the OVA. But like, if I had two gripes, honestly, it's like the first gripe would just be the human characters. It's like I see no real purpose of them being in there. Like, I would prefer to just have a full CG movie of the characters. But the other gripe is just like, why is Sonic creating electricity constantly? Because they're trying to make him like the Flash or something. Which they do show off that he reads the Flash comics. So it's kind of obvious what they're getting the inspiration from. But other than that, it's just kind of like, yeah, it is what it was. Now, if they were to remake the Sonic OVA as a CG movie and did it correctly, like, you know, didn't try to go too crazy with it and to put in too many like kitty jokes and stuff like that, just left it as it was, but just like with a new coat of paint type of thing, that would be crazy. Would I prefer 2D animation? Yes, I would still prefer that because I think it would just look nicer. But CG wouldn't hurt if done right. That's the biggest like asterisk for everything. It's just like, if done right, because you can't just say, oh, we'll just make a 3D movie out of it. It's like, you can, but you gotta do it right. Because it's kind of like how DC treats their characters. It's like, oh, we should make a movie of our characters. Like, you can, if you do it right. It's kind of like when people would argue, like, oh, you can't make another good Sonic game. It's like, oh, yeah, you can if you do it right, and so that's why we have Sonic Mania. Because people knew how to do it right. Let's give her more of a greenish. Or a bluish. There we go. Actually, let's try doing it this way. Yeah, I think once I'm done with the body, I'm gonna have to call it for today. Shouldn't be too much longer with the body. It's too much. I should definitely watch Sonic OVA again. That movie's always a fun time. They should bring back Sarah. She was fun. Sarah's just a better Elise. I am excited that Flynn is working on, or is it Ian Flynn? It's probably Finn. Is working on the next Sonic game. So hopefully, a lot comes from that. Because if we can get certain characters coming back to the series, but as game characters, that's an extremely big plus. Like, even if it's just like one at a time, like, I'm willing to take that. Although, I'm pretty sure Sega knows how popular those characters are, so they could probably get away with putting in more than one. Oh yes. She's got a nicely sized scythe. They should make it where she every once in a while she'll spend time with Daylock, and Daylock just fawns over her. It's just being adorable. She'll probably be like, "Oh, you're a cute little death, aren't you?" And say, "Don't forget your bucket." That'd be adorable. Or Daylock takes her trick-or-treating. That'd be cute. That could be fun. Becky's a bit overweight to begin with because of her weird anatomy and eating habits. Like, she's not thin, but she's pretty voluptuous. And she does have a pooch belly. Not a big one like apricots, but she does have one. It might be a little bit too much because she's so bright. Let's try 30%. Yeah, 30 is fine. Well, yeah, because canonically, Becky will never be in that situation. That's basically what the commissions have been. It's just, you know, people wanted me to draw Becky in that situation. I mean, hell, maybe I'll make an art set or something of just non-canon characters fat. Done. I still need to do Kiwi's picture. My brother cooking. I will not make adoptables again because I get too attached to the characters. I had made 3, and that was it. I got way too attached to the characters after letting them go, so I will not do that again. As for your character years, maybe I might try that out, see where it goes. I don't know when, but could be something to do. Oh, do I think they're bad or good or anything like that? Is it bad or good to make an adoptable? Is that what you're asking? Oh, no, it's perfectly fine if you want to make a character to sell and let go. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Is no different than, you know, selling the license of a story or character to somebody. Like that's happened tons of times. Like it happens in regular media, like the licensing with Spider-Man. Like technically, Marvel sold the license for Spider-Man to Sony, so that's why Sony has to make a Spider-Man movie every 4 years, if I remember correctly, or else they lose the license to Spider-Man back to Marvel. The thing with adoptables is that it's permanent. Like you're selling the rights of your character to whoever, and they can do whatever they want after that point, unless you like make some contract where you're just you're renting out the licenses, and that's a whole other thing that I probably don't think would work out very well. The way that would be handled. But yeah, in terms of just selling off the character and that's it, then yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. You just hope it's the best decision you make, really, because, you know, the worst thing you'd want to... Well, the worst thing that could happen is you sell a character, and let's just say you had, like, a very brief backstory of the character or whatever, or even if it didn't have a backstory and, you know, you just sold the design of the character and all that. The only bad thing that could ever happen to you, really, is if the person who buys it from you does something extremely amazing with that character, and then you're out of luck, because that was a character that you sold. You no longer have control of the character. It's no longer yours, and the person you sold it to made bank. That's like pretty much the worst thing that could ever happen. So you just gotta be not exactly picky, but like just be careful and wary of what designs you're willing to give up, because for all you know, it could be a good design. It just depends on how you handle it. Like, you know, you might have something useful, but if you don't know how to utilize it, then, you know, it's only going to be as good or powerful as you make it. But, you know, if you're okay with selling it off, there's nothing wrong with that. Just, you know, that it is what it is after that point. So just take your chances. If you're only focused on selling characters, then more power to you. Nothing wrong with it. Yeah, and your character here there's nothing wrong with those at all. Like, all it is just, here's a rough sketch of a character or two, and people can pay to have their characters in those poses. That's basically it, really. There's nothing crazy. There's nothing outlandish about it. Or even if, like, let's just say I drew Becky, but then I had like just a sketch of a random character, like, you know, giving it to her. I can put up, who wants the spot of the character doing her or something. Like, if I were to make a comic, which I was thinking about doing this. I was thinking about doing a comic of, like, Becky talking about the first character the first person she lost her virginity to. And then making, like, your character here, or even, like, a comic going, like, alright, who wants to be that character? So, I was debating on putting that up as, like, an auction of who wanted to be the character that took Becky's virginity. So if I ever decide to do that, that'll probably be a your character here / auction thing. But yeah, it's just, yeah, nothing wrong with your character here. Is to have fun with it, do whatever. All it is just poses, really. But yeah, adoptables is just, you're literally selling a character. almost done with the body. Just got like 1 or 2 more steps after this. And then we'll call it for the day. I still have to put in effects for the bucket, but we can do that later. Or I can do that later. But yeah, for me personally, I can't do adoptables again. I got way too attached to the ones I let go. I was like, no. And it might have just been like back then. Like, let me check. Because I think the date might explain why. Okay, when did I make this? Yeah, this was 2014 in January. So yeah, this was before iHat was even a thing. So I had more room for tossing these characters into something back then. Yeah, nowadays, if I had them, I would have used them for like iHat or something. But that's okay. I have plenty of characters to use at the moment, whether I make new ones or not. But yeah, definitely not doing that again. If I do it again, it has to be characters I have no care for. Which is highly unlikely. Heck, I was making up stories of a freaking random snake character in the background of Fat Blake's comic. Like, I could have made up a whole scenario with just that character. Like random noodle. Have a good night. I'm about to take off pretty soon as well. like, why does this look weird? Like that would explain it. Ah, he already left. But yeah, have a good night, Yenwa. Yenwai. Yeah, we're almost done. That's too much. Thank you. Yeah, eventually I'm gonna go through all of the adoptables that I've gotten and update them so I can use them in my comics. It's not so much as an update, it's just drawing them in my style. Because obviously I don't want to push the original artwork as my own, because that's not the case. Like, I'll still give them credit, of course, but I have to draw my own version first. Oh, yes. That's how I treat it. Because it was always weird when people were asking me, is it okay to draw my characters doing whatever scenario, or even commissioning my characters to do whatever scenario, because I guess they've dealt with people in the past freaking out over their characters being portrayed too crudely or too lewd or something. And I guess, and I understand that to a point, but at the same time, it's like, I just take commissions as non-canon scenarios, so it doesn't matter. As far as I'm concerned, they're just being hired to do a skit, and that's it. So, that's how I treated it, at least. Okay, so can do the effects on the pumpkin later. Last but not least, let's just clean some of this up. Eraser. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but I just need it to be visible. So next, blur. I always keep thinking 4 would be good, but 4 never seems to be enough. Or it seems to be too blurry, so 3. There we go. Yeah, like if I were to get commissioned and somebody wanted me to draw any of my characters fat or as men or doing stuff that they wouldn't normally do to begin with, I wouldn't care. It's just like, okay, it's just a commission. Like, it's not a representation of my characters and what they do. It's just somebody wants to commission my characters doing something lewd or ridiculous or crazy, or even if it's something wholesome, it's like, whatever. It's just a commission. It doesn't mean anything. And like, I can understand if people are trying to keep their characters in a certain presentation, because it's kind of like the scenario with Esurance. It's like they made a character to represent their company. People took the character, made her lewd, and now anytime you type in the character, well, maybe not anytime, it might have died down, but like when you type in the character, the first things to appear on Google, which technically raises questions because Google has a safe mode. So unless you turn that off, that's the only way you're ever going to see the lewds of the character of the Esurance girl. But anyway, when you type in, the name, she would show up as part of the lewd drawings would show up as part of the search results and all that. So that was the reason why they kind of dropped her pretty quickly, because as soon as you type in Esurance, some of those pictures would show up. And I can understand that, people don't want their characters to be associated with those things too easily. So that's why they get really nitpicky on who draws what and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like, if you know how to handle it, then you won't have that problem. Plus, people do like adult content. If you try to stray from it too much, then you're just missing out on potential uses of those characters and stuff like that. It's kind of like Nintendo. Like, Nintendo is fully aware that people think of their characters in particular ways or use them in particular ways, risque and stuff like that. You just have to tiptoe around how you do it, because, like, for example, Pokemon. There was an artist who let me get his name because he actually does really good work. But when he was doing his earlier work, he was drawing Pokemon in lewd situations. But then Nintendo got on his ass about it, so he had to scrap all the projects that he was working on. Insomniac Overlord, that was his name. He had to scrap all the projects he was working on because one of the comics he was doing was a Pikachu getting it on with Lapras. So he had to scrap that project, make up his own. He basically made up his own Pokemon. He obviously doesn't call them Pokemon, but he made up his own creatures, and a lot of them just resemble the Pokemon that he was using. Like, give them close likenesses, but obviously not the same designs and stuff, just so he could continue on with the projects that he was doing. So he made up his own slew of characters, which so that way he didn't have any more problems. Like, it was good. It was good for him because that way he had his own characters to use instead of Pokemon. So it was actually beneficial for Nintendo to go after him for it. But again, Nintendo's basically missing out on the adult scene for a lot of their characters. But I understand the reason why they're doing that is because they're a family-friendly company, or supposedly, because Nintendo has a lot of characters with dark stories, with dark storylines. So take it as you will with that. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Is acknowledge that the adult scene exists, but you don't have to shy away from it, but just make characters to cater to it, and then you're good. But obviously that doesn't work for every company, because once you present yourself in a particular way, then you're kind of, for the most part, trapped in that role. And because Nintendo represents themselves as the family company, they kind of can't do too many dark or adult situations without raising some eyebrows. So it makes sense. It's dumb, but it is what it is. Me, I'm just like, whatever. I never once represented myself as a family-friendly artist. It's like, nope. I like drawing the boobs and the butt and big and thin characters and blood and gore, like, whatever. Never shied away from that once. Anyway, gonna stop here. Basically got her body down. I'll work on her head and the paper bag on my own, and I'll probably post her soon because there's a few characters I need to make bios for and then post. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming. I will try to stream again soon. I want to say Wednesday, maybe Sunday if I have a chance, but I want to say Wednesday. If not, then we'll do another Friday. But yeah, thank you for coming, and I will see you guys again next time.